Hello, this is Morgana, your money goddess. People know me about helping them make money fall in love with them. My clients have made thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars in really astonishing amounts of time just with interchange. And hello, Anthony David Adams, thank you for joining. And what I'm talking to you about today, and also totally open to questions. It's so much more interesting when you guys are kind of setting the curriculum. Hi. But what I really want to talk about is love, marriage, and magic, because I've always been a romantic person. I grew up on Disney princess movies and romance novels and all that craziness. In fact, I had to make, hello Shalini, I had to make money a romantic guy just so that I could value money in my life. And so here's the interesting thing to me is I didn't get married at all in my lifetime until I was 48. Because I also saw a lot of divorce and a lot of unhappy marriages growing up. And the family tradition going back to my great-grandmother and probably long before that is my family, hi Patricia, my family is really bad at the first marriage and really good at the second marriage. And that has been consistent. Aunt, mom, dad, grandparents on both sides, grandparents all over, up and down the line. So I made a decision when I was about 7 years old in the second grade that it would be more efficient to just skip the first marriage and just wait, hi Liz, wait for the second marriage. Just marry the second husband. Which is what I did. I waited into, if you're really, really honest with yourself, it's not going to work. And I couldn't pretend. And I dated, hi Mo, I dated an astonishing number of guys, and I considered marrying a few of them, and some of them were really great guys, and it was not going to work. So it's kind of like smoking. Why start? Why bother if it's just going to be a really painful ending? And Devin was the first guy I married. And so far I've married him 19 times. The last 10 years of dating, I set the intention. Hi Cynthia, I had a truly out of body experience of eternity, seeing like how the entire world works. No, I didn't do drugs. Honestly, adding my already loopy intuitive consciousness. Hello Bernadette. I think I already have access, like without drugs, to what people take drugs for, and I think drugs would just really mess it up. So anyway, I made a decision not to pretend, not to know what I really honestly knew within the first or second date. I decided to stop pretending, not to know why a relationship wasn't going to work out, and save myself a couple of years of agony. And so I became a one-date wonder for 10 years. And it sucked, a lot of it. I took about 5 years off to just read novels. And the nice thing about that was that the desire and the pain eventually went away, but it was also, I was kind of like Sleeping Beauty, and that whole aspect of my life was asleep. But anyway, I made this decision 10 years before I met Devin to stop pretending, not to know what I knew, and from that very moment, I could see an expiration date above every guy I dated. And I might even give him 3 months. But it was, and by the way, here's the great thing about guys is they are not subtle. So like one of them had huge anger management issues and racism, and preferred a type of body that wasn't mine. Like, that's an easy call. Oh, I had a date with a guy who told me in really graphic detail his entire sexual history, including the full name of every girl, and then flipped the heck out when I didn't date him after that. Hi, Gregory. And, and it just, they made it really, really easy for me to know that it was just not possible. And Devin was the first guy who didn't have an expiration date above his head. And then interesting things that would have made him the wrong person and terrifying for somebody else made him really right for me. Like, I was in New York City because a client of mine was representing a fashion designer and said, hey, you know, you can sit in the front row at Fashion Week. And I was like, I'm there. And I hopped on a plane because I thought that sounds fun. And it would be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because I was on California time in New York City and I'm still wide awake. And I found myself calling Devin, which was like a first hint that he was special. And then I was talking with him and it was a, you know, Friday night, Saturday morning, or Saturday night, Sunday morning. I don't remember. This was years ago. And he has to get off the phone because he's going to be teaching Kabbalah in the morning and he has to prepare. And I'm like, what? Because in California, guys use spirituality as a pickup line, and they've been using it as a pickup line since I was 12 years old. So I run away from men who broadcast how spiritual they are. He has been studying and teaching Kabbalah and all sorts of Western mysteries and magic for decades, like really high. He's a made man in the esoteric mafia, if there is such a thing, and there kind of is. He's like really high up there, never said a word about it, wasn't in his dating profile, kept it really close to the sleeve, didn't use it to get in my pants. And I don't think he had gotten my pants by that time. Maybe he should have, but that's another story. So I hear that, and I had studied Kabbalah at Smith College in 1989. One of the other kids in my class, I'm 50, I can call them kids now. One of the other kids in my class was Bob Dylan's son, Sam. And so Devin's association with magic and mysticism and Kabbalah would make him really, really wrong for a lot of people and made him better for me. And I had this imaginary chessboard in front of me at that moment when I heard that, and it was like I could see his piece like go way across the board and leave all these other really cool guys who were still in orbit, because we hadn't gotten exclusive yet. So yeah, no, we weren't having sex yet. But yeah, he took a bunch of steps across the board. Hi, Franco. And one of the guys who had responded to me online was somebody that I'd had a crush on since I was 12 years old. This really cute, funny juggler from the Renaissance Fair. But when it came down to the time to have that conversation, because I just really wanted to sleep with Devin that much, and I wanted to be safe with my heart and also safe with my body, and not do that outside of an exclusive relationship, not for any like puritanical bullshit sexual morality reasons. I don't buy into that, but just knowing how I get attached, and also knowing that anytime a woman has sex with a guy, you can die from disease, from pregnancy, or being with the wrong guy, you know. So I just, you know, I waited, and so I had to let go of all these other groovy options just because Devin was that cute. So let's see. I think the reason I'm bringing this up, besides it's my favorite topic in the world, and I'm always talking about money, but I really want to talk about Devin. So hello, Michael Jonta. So Devin is a really magical guy, which is kind of funny because if you meet him, he's just a guy. Like, he likes boxing and those mixed martial art things, and he likes TV shows with lots of violence and boobs, and he's just a guy, you know, not pretentious, but he's like on a deeper level. He walks his talk like I've never seen anybody, and I've dated some big gurus, spiritual personal development gurus, by the way, big gurus make bad boyfriends, but in real life, he meditates, he prays, and just the way he behaves, and this is the really key thing, is he really puts service and kindness with me, with his daughter, with his friends, with volunteer work, with strangers on the street. He just quietly goes about the day being a good person. Not to get anything out of it except it's part of his spiritual path. Like, he really does believe Kabbalah, and he really does believe that it's all about getting closer to the light, to truth, to God, to wholeness. And he didn't start out that way. I mean, he started out with drinking and gambling and lots of messed up life stuff that he really just turned around in his life. So tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing him at noon for a live webinar about this spiritual stuff, and he uses very profane language, which is kind of cool because he's talking about these really lofty subjects. And if you were in our living room on a Sunday night where he's teaching Kabbalah or he's teaching Magick, it's like, he's just spitting out gematria, like, the mystical Jewish numerical value of every letter and every word and what that means and what that corresponds with, and it's like heady stuff, which turns me on, but he's so smart. He plays it so, like, nothing about him seems dumb, but he this educated side of him, he doesn't really broadcast until you're in the living room, and it's really interesting stuff. And because he approaches love and romance from this perspective, and honestly manifested me magically, which is kind of a wild thing to think about, and our 5-year anniversary is coming up on Friday, our 5-year anniversary of our first date, which, let me tell you, I didn't want to go to. I wanted to blow it off. I was tired. His photo on okcupid.com was not very cute, but he wrote a nice letter, and he did a good phone call, and there was one photo in all of those photos where he might have been somewhat cute, but the main one from I think Iceland with the kind of Eskimo hood made him just look like a round-faced, bald, fat old man. So I didn't even want to show up for our first date. But I also really didn't want to be that kind of jerk face who stands up somebody on a date, because so many people had done that to me. So I showed up, and the date lasted 6 hours, and we had another date. So I'm going to be talking to him tomorrow, and I'll post the link to attach to the video. And by the way, ask me a question anytime. I'm talking, but ask me a question anytime. To just, like, pick his brain on really juicy, interesting stuff like the purpose of love. Why do we have all this dating drama, and how do we have less of it? Why is it so hard to find your person? And by the way, the Jews came up with the whole twin flame thing, because I know that's a popular thing, but in Jewish mythology, all the souls were like split in half, male half, female half, although, mix and match according to your gender preference. We are pro LGBTQ here. But there's the idea that there's somebody else out there that is the other half of your soul, which is, it's so romantic. So I'm going to be talking to Devin about that and see if we can, like, for people who are not as happy as they could be with their romantic lives, how can we turn that around? Because honestly, 99% of what we do in pursuit of love is exactly what is pushing the love away. So just ask him some questions about that, see if we can, improve the experience, speed up the journey for other people. And what I wanted to talk about with the marriage, in my non-linear rambling way, I hope people are still here, is, so Devin proposed to me I was in Bali, May 2014. He was in South Africa photographing animals and traveling to talk to me every morning at maybe 4 o'clock in the morning his time, to get like a really brief time that we were both available with a bad internet connection. And on one of those treks, it's out in the bush. There are no fences, and this lion is like a few feet away from him and roars behind a bush. And Devin wanted to run, but his Sherpa said, you run your food. And so this little tiny guy that you could snap like a twig just walks Devin slowly to the center that has the internet. And Devin thought to himself, what kind of a guy does that to talk to a girl? And thought, oh, she must be the one. Which is kind of funny, because I had figured that out a year earlier without any lions. But so he proposed to me, and after a week of telling me why I wasn't the right woman for him and he wasn't the right man for me, and convincing me that he was going to break up with me, and then he proposes to me, and I just about got whiplash. And then I freaked out, because even though I had known for all these years that I wanted to get married and that I had decided he was the one, when it came to it, it was like I thought I had a couple more years to ease him into the idea, and I freaked the heck out, because you don't get to be 48 and never married if you don't have commitment issues. So I thought about it, and I thought I didn't want the hassle of like a big banquet room and a guest list and all that crap. I didn't want to spend $40,000 to $70,000 on a one-day party, so we just eloped. And I got to try being married. And the weird thing that nobody told me, because I had heard, especially from guys, that it's just a piece of paper, it doesn't change anything, and I believed that. And by the way, again, no moral issue about cohabitation, and for God's sake, I tested the milk for free before I bought the cow. But it did change things in a way that I couldn't imagine, that is so delightful and beautiful and happy, and there's kind of a richness. And I'm like, I am such a frickin' fan of the institution. I don't really know what happened, except that there was a level of commitment. That when you cross that line, whatever it means, it changed things for me, and I didn't know, because of course I had grown up seeing really bad marriages, even good marriages going through crap. And I think my marriage is the happiest marriage I've ever observed. And it feels magical, and it feels like a bubble, and part of the thing of all these weddings, and by the way, it's not really for anybody else. And then Devin's brother is a TV producer in Chicago and said, well, you have to film it, because he wanted to turn it into a TV pilot. And all these producers pop up here and there wanting to turn it into like a TV show, which on one hand would be great to get paid to just do what I want to do, and then on the other hand, I don't really want to turn this into a job, so we really just do it for ourselves. But I really am grateful for like the video and the photos we take to commemorate it. But here's the thing about doing the wedding vows, is it makes the relationship really conscious. And the way Devin does relationship comes from this generosity of spirit. So from the very first time, like I'm in Bali and he says, make a list of what you want for the other person. I misheard it. So I had my list of what I wanted from him. And then on our first round of vows, he responded with what he wanted for me. And I have to say, looking into your lover's eyes and just saying what you want for that other person, all the wonderful experiences that you want for this other person and how you want to help that other person have a great life. Holy cow, it is just the nicest way to do love. And I want that for everybody because I think it would just make the planet a better place. So Devin's going to dive into his wisdom, which really honestly just beats anything else I've ever heard. And I'm friends with the best dating and relationship coaches. And he stands tall among all of them. And I love to just, like, when he's teaching his course, I hide on the stairwell so I don't distract him, and I just kind of listen going, oh my God, that was so brilliant. So I'm going to interview him for a day tomorrow for free webinar, no strings attached, to where he can just, you know, share stuff and answer questions because, you know, money's important, and money isn't what makes anybody happy, really. Love is what makes people happy. The only reason to have money is to serve love, to serve a lifestyle you love, to serve the people you love, to create a better planet that is about love. And all of our pains and tragedies and the great money monster in the world is a lack of love. So we're going to cut through the middleman and just do love tomorrow, 12 noon Pacific time. I will post the link so you can come and join us. And thank you for showing up so I could talk about my favorite topic in the world. Bye.